Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
Many U.S. service members will have to roll up their sleeves before December. They have some time, but a report says the military's got a 6-digit number of unvaccinated personnel. Here's NTD's Miguel Moreno with more on that report.
The Washington Post reports that hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops are unvaccinated. They base this analysis on data they attribute to the Department of Defense. By November 28th, active duty personnel in the Navy and Marine Corps must be fully vaccinated. According to the Post, 90% of the Navy is good to go, but only 72% of the Marine Corps is. Most branches have different deadlines. The Marine Corps Reserves, for example, have until the 28th of December, and they have the smallest number of full vaccinations, 38%. The Pentagon hasn't gotten back to us. Troops who refuse to get vaccinated could be punished by being discharged or relieved of their duties. It's unclear if non-compliant troops will be discharged honorably or dishonorably. Republican lawmakers have introduced a measure to ban the military from dishonorably discharging military personnel for turning down the COVID-19 vaccine. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
As you know, many Americans have come down with COVID-19, recovered, and generated natural immunity to the virus. Question is, should vaccine mandates apply to them? Recently, a federal judge ruled in favor of a Michigan university's mandate. Immunity or not, they say the staff need to get vaccinated. More from NTD's Miguel Moreno.
An employee at Michigan State University, known as MSU, has sued the school over its COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Gina Norris, a COVID survivor, claims she has natural immunity, but the university's policy wants her vaccinated anyway. Over the weekend, a federal judge denied her request to block the school's mandate. Norris now faces termination. Her lawyer, Jen Eunice, tells me they argued that their client would suffer irreparable harm if the mandate stood in place, partly because Norris, who has natural immunity, could suffer from an adverse reaction.
So we're arguing that people with natural immunity should not be subject to MSU's vaccine mandate because the immunity that they have is as good or better as that you get from the vaccine. So it doesn't make any sense. And not only that, we have an expert who can attest that there's evidence showing that people who have natural immunity are at heightened risk of adverse effects from the vaccine.
But the judge wasn't convinced. In a court document, U.S. Judge Paul Maloney didn't mention the greater risk of adverse reactions, but gave several reasons for letting the vaccine mandate stand. He said if MSU's vaccine mandate is not enforced, the harm to others and the public could be serious, according to health officials. This factor weighs in favor of defendants. We asked MSU why they deny vaccine exemptions for those with natural and demonstrable immunity to COVID. They said they won't comment. MSU does recognize naturally acquired immunity to measles, but not to COVID. Norris's lawyer told me the federal judge's decision could be used by other judges to rule against claims similar to her clients. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Merck is asking the Food and Drug Administration to grant emergency use authorization for a new COVID-19 treatment. It's a treatment for infected persons. Merck says it can reduce the risk of hospitalization or death from COVID by 50%. That number comes from a study involving 700 patients. Merck has already sold over 1.5 million treatment courses to the U.S. government and promised to offer it at lower prices to other governments. The U.S. purchased those initial molnupiravir doses at about $700 per 5-day treatment course. It reportedly costs Merck less than $18 to produce each course. The Boston Marathon is back after being absent for 30 months due to the pandemic. Kenyans won both the men's and the women's races.
The Boston Marathon was replaced with several virtual events last year. And this year, it was postponed from the spring for the first time in its 125-year history. Organizers put in place COVID-19 protocols for athletes and required spectators to social distance.
Now this year, the race is smaller. We've had to reduce the size to 20,000. Normally it's 31,500. So that economic impact will not be as great. but it will never be more welcome than this year for businesses, for the hospitality industry that has so suffered from this pandemic.
Benson Kipruto from Kenya won the men's race. He ran the 26.2-mile course in 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 51 seconds. In second place was Lemi Berhanu from Ethiopia. He finished 46 seconds after Kipruto. The third and fourth place finishers are also Ethiopians. And Kenyans swept the podium in the women's race. Diana Kipyoge finished first in 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 45 seconds. The second, third, and fourth place finishers are also Kenyan athletes. Marcel Hug from Switzerland won the men's wheelchair race in 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 11 seconds. American Daniel Romanchik finished second. Manuela Schar, another racer from Switzerland, won the women's wheelchair in 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 21 seconds. Americans Tatiana McFadden and Yen Hoang finished second and third.
And in Australia, a senior member of the Victoria Police Force speaks out over ethical concerns and then quits her job. Victoria has some of the strictest pandemic restrictions in the world and has been criticized for its enforcement methods. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Former Acting Senior Sergeant Crystal Mitchell was a police officer in Victoria, Australia for 16 years. On Friday night local time, she quit her job during an interview with independent news outlet Discernible.
The consequences of me being here today is that I will be resigning from Victoria Police effective the end of this interview. Wow. Because the consequences of me coming out publicly would be dismissal. So I'm choosing to quit, and I'm quitting because I can't remedy in my soul anymore the way in which my organisation that I love to work for is being used, and the damage that it's causing in the reputation of Victoria Police and the damage that it's causing to the community.
Mitchell was working at the Gender Equality and Inclusion Command, a job she described as the best she'd ever had, but her conscience wouldn't allow her to stay and remain silent.
All of my friends that are police officers, that are working the front line and are suffering every day, enforcing show directions that the vast majority, or certainly a great majority, don't believe in and don't want to enforce.
Victoria has had the longest lockdown in the world and some of the strictest enforcement measures. The region has a 7-day average of 1,700 CCP virus cases and 6 deaths. Under the chief health officer's orders, police have been given greater powers to arrest people. And over the last few months, videos of police aggressively enforcing pandemic measures have gone viral worldwide. Footage of officers assaulting protesters at freedom rallies have also shocked the international community. Mitchell claims the Victoria Police have lost their independence from the government. She said that in her opinion, Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews has escalated the violence between protesters and police by outlawing protesting.
And they are using divisive and maligning language about all protesters and calling protests illegal. I just think is ridiculous. The only reason that protests are illegal is because Daniel Andrews made it so.
She expressed frustration that Andrews' administration and the Victoria Police hadn't worked together to ensure people could still safely protest during the pandemic. When asked why police don't just refuse to enforce the orders, Mitchell said it's not that simple. She said police are obligated to fulfill their duties and carry out the directives until the orders are contested in court. According to Australia's 9 News, Victoria Police said in a statement that the comments in Mitchell's interview in no way reflect the views of Victoria Police. The police union said they wish her well and hope she receives the support she needs. Mitchell says she and a coalition of other officers are planning to challenge vaccine mandates in court on behalf of all authorized workers in Victoria. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.